the text that erased a dream. It was nearly midnight when the phone buzzed on Marilyn's kitchen table, its small green light slicing through the quiet of her California home. The refrigerator hummed, a faint, faithful sound that had accompanied her countless late nights of planning and saving. She reached for the phone with steady hands until she read the message. "You won't be joining us. My wife prefers to keep the vacation just for her family. You've already done your part by paying." The words sat on the screen, cold and precise. She read them twice, then a third time, waiting for some softer follow-up. None came. The timestamp glowed, 11:02 p.m. For 3 years, she had built this trip to Hawaii out of pennies and faith. She could still smell the lavender candle she had packed, meant for the beach memorial to her late husband James. She had imagined the whole scene, her grandchildren's small hands around hers, the Pacific wind carrying their laughter. Now, all that remained was a handful of folded sundresses in a travel bag and a single, stinging text. The silence of the house grew heavy. Memories pressed in. She saw Nathan as a boy, running home with Mother's Day cards that read, "My mom saves the day." She heard James's teasing voice when they honeymooned in Maui, both of them too poor to buy even a second suitcase. All those memories now trembled like old film about to burn out. Marilyn's eyes moved to the handmade souvenir bags she had prepared, each tagged with a grandchild's name and filled with keychains that said, "Aloha, Grandma loves you." Her fingers ached as she slowly unwrapped each one. With every keychain laid on the table, she felt a decade of quiet generosity rise and harden inside her. She did not call. She did not text. She opened her old laptop instead. The soft blue glow lit her face as she found the Hawaii Travel Fund folder, 3 years of secret discipline. Tutoring English online, despite stiff joints, skipping cable and favorite teas. Lowering the thermostat to save a few dollars. The account balance blinked on the screen. $21,763.84. The cursor hovered over a single option, freeze account. One click and every linked card, airline, villa, rental cars, luau tickets would be locked. She hesitated, heart pounding, not with doubt but with a strange gathering clarity. Before she clicked, she opened a blank document. Names began to fill the page. Carol, whose son never called since she got cancer. Louise, widowed last fall. Frances, who raised grandchildren that forgot her. Beverly, who longed for a single picture of herself at the beach. Marilyn saved the file and returned to the bank screen. A final prompt appeared. "Are you sure you want to pause all linked transactions?" She clicked, "Yes." Another message confirmed. "All linked cards will be disabled immediately." The house remained still. Outside, a breeze rustled the bird bath James had installed decades earlier. Marilyn closed the laptop and finally let a breath leave her chest. It wasn't revenge she felt, but something deeper and steadier, clarity. She poured a cup of peppermint tea, the steam curling like a quiet promise. Around her, the California night stretched wide and calm. For the first time in years, she wasn't the one waiting to be chosen. She was the one choosing. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen curtains, soft but merciless in the way it revealed every small thing she had sacrificed. The house was immaculate, shined floors, neatly folded dish towels, a fridge that still held the little yogurt cups she'd bought for the grandchildren. All the tokens of a family life that rarely showed up anymore. Marilyn carried her tea to the den and sat before the old oak desk where so many careful plans had been made. She let her eyes roam the framed photographs on the wall. There she was with Nathan as a toddler at the Santa Cruz boardwalk. There he stood grinning in a high school cap and gown. Lately, though, new photographs were scarce. The truth had crept in slowly, like a tide that rises at night. There had been those Thanksgiving dinners when Tanya suggested just the kids pose for a group picture, leaving Marilyn to step back, holding the camera. Christmas had turned into an annual exercise in being nearly included one year. They'd all worn matching red sweaters with white trees while she arrived in blue, never told of the plan. Nathan had brushed it off. "Oh, you're not into that stuff, Mom." But she was. No one asked. Still, she kept giving. She had begun the Hawaii dream with an old mason jar she labeled Dream Jar in her own neat handwriting. Every small saving mattered. Skipping a movie rental, brewing her own chai instead of visiting the cafe, layering sweaters so she could keep the heat low. She tutored teenagers online long after her eyes blurred, whispering to herself, "One more hour, one more dollar." Friends had tried to warn her. After Bible study, Carol once asked gently if she was doing too much. Louise half-joked that Marilyn was the family's private travel agent and ATM. Even James's sister had raised an eyebrow when she heard the trip was entirely on Marilyn's retirement savings. But Marilyn had brushed it aside. "They don't understand," she told herself. "This is how a family comes back together." As she replayed these moments, the pattern sharpened. Tanya's habit of correcting her in front of the children. Birthday parties moved to Tanya's mother's house at the last minute. Invitations that sounded like afterthoughts. "Nathan's mom is here too." A polite smile could wound more deeply than anger. Yet Marilyn kept planning. She had chosen a beachfront villa with wheelchair access for Tanya's mother. She had ordered custom t-shirts with everyone's names and the words, "Family is Forever, 2023. She even packed James's favorite lavender candle to light on the sand. All the while, she told herself that these silent investments would earn something priceless: togetherness. Now she saw the quiet ledger of her life. Column A, things she gave money, time, tenderness, small daily joys denied. Column B, what she received: brief thanks, occasional texts, and more often, silence. For years she had balanced that ledger with hope. But last night's message had closed the account. She closed her eyes and let the memories flow, not to punish herself, but to see clearly. She remembered Nathan as a boy, insisting she was his best friend in 2nd grade, and how he used to bring her pink tulips every March. She remembered James holding her hand on a windswept Maui beach, promising they'd bring their children back someday. Those promises had kept her heart open, long after it should have been guarded. When she finally rose from the desk, the decision she'd made at midnight felt even stronger. She wasn't erasing her love for Nathan or her grandchildren. She was refusing to keep underwriting their disregard. The years of invisible giving had ended. The house was silent, but inside Marilyn there was movement, a slow, deliberate turning from sorrow to resolve. Her life would no longer be defined by what she gave away without being seen. It was time to write a different kind of story. The next morning, Marilyn moved through the house like a quiet current. She folded the same throw blanket twice, straightened picture frames that were already straight, and polished a counter that had no smudges. Outside, the California sun poured over tidy lawns and bougainvillea fences, but she felt none of its warmth. On her phone, Nathan's unread message from last night remained the final word. She thought briefly about sending one more text, something light, like a grandmother asking if the kids might need snacks for the flight. At last, she typed it. "Let me know if I can help with the kids' bags. I have extra motion sickness bands for Olivia." She hit send and waited. A soft ping confirmed the message was read. No reply. That silence told her everything. Not forgetfulness, not confusion, a choice. Marilyn returned to the banking app and reviewed the trip details with meticulous calm. 6 linked cards, villa, flights, car rental, tours were set to charge automatically. Departure was booked for 10:45 a.m. from LAX. She opened her digital calendar and marked the day with a red circle. The freeze would activate precisely at 8:15 a.m., the very moment she imagined her son and his in-laws handing their luggage to an airline clerk, certain every detail had been paid for. The following dawn arrived with ocean-clear light. She brewed peppermint tea and sat at James's old lookout chair by the window. At exactly 8:15, she tapped the button. A soft blue icon bloomed on the screen. Freeze mode activated. No sound, no fanfare, just an invisible wall around her years of sacrifice. Almost immediately, the phone began to vibrate. One call, then another. First Nathan, then Tanya, then again. Marilyn turned the phone face down, letting the calls stack like waves, breaking and retreating. 10 minutes later, the first message arrived. "Hey Mom, getting a weird error at check-in. Can you check the travel account real quick?" 5 minutes passed. "They're saying the card was declined multiple times. Anything on your end?" Still, she stayed silent. At LAX, she pictured the scene. The family in their matching vacation polos, Tanya's mother posing for a photo, the children twirling with excitement. Then the sudden disruption, a boarding clerk frowning at the screen, Tanya's practiced smile collapsing as each swipe of the card returned a dull electronic beep, Nathan's voice lowering to a sharp whisper. Questions ricocheting across the counter. The calls quickened every 5 minutes, then back to back. Marilyn sipped her tea and let the steady hum of the refrigerator fill the room. She imagined Tanya pacing near the gate, her parents exchanging worried glances, the children tugging at their sleeves. A new voicemail landed, Nathan's tone now urgent and thin. Mom, I don't know what you did, but if this is because of the text, can we please talk? No apology, no ownership, just a bargain, as if love could be reactivated like a credit line. Soon an email pinged. Subject, booking cancellation confirmed. The resort wrote with professional cheer, noting that the villa reservation had been voided at the request of the sole account holder, Marilyn. The message ended politely. We hope to welcome you in the future. The phone buzzed again. Nathan's final attempt came at 10:40 a.m., 5 minutes before departure. We're boarding, call me please. But she didn't. Instead, Marilyn stepped outside. A coastal breeze rattled the wind chime James had given her on their 35th anniversary. It sang a single silver note, clear, unsentimental. She stood there a long time, breathing in the salt-tinged air. By noon, she had more than 50 missed calls. She did not check the voicemails. She went for a walk, greeting neighbors and admiring the first blush of spring roses. When someone asked if she was heading anywhere for spring break, she smiled. Not yet, she said, but soon. Her silence had become more than absence. It was an answer, strong enough to be heard without a single word. By mid-afternoon, Marilyn's phone had finally gone still. No more insistent buzzes, no more pleading voicemails. The quiet inside the house felt different now, no longer the lonely hush of exclusion, but a space waiting to be filled. She rinsed her teacup, set it carefully in the rack, and let a single thought rise. If I'm not welcome in their family, I can build another kind. She went to her desk and opened a fresh document. Across the top, she typed a simple title, Those Who Deserve to Be Seen. Names came quickly, each one carrying a private history of giving without return. Carol, the choir friend whose grown children rarely called since her cancer diagnosis. Beverly, who had nursed a brother through dementia and now lived alone with quiet, stubborn grace. Frances, who'd raised 3 grandchildren but was left off their wedding guest lists. Nora, who once confessed that the hardest part of aging was invisibility. Denise, who still sent birthday cards to nieces who never replied. For each name, Marilyn added small details. A favorite flower, a food allergy, a memory of laughter in better days. As she worked, she phoned each woman. Carol answered first, her voice small with surprise. Hawaii? For a week? Marilyn, are you sure you dialed the right number? Yes, Marilyn said, smiling into the quiet. Because someone should take you somewhere beautiful, and I choose you. Each call followed the same rhythm. Disbelief, a long silence. Then a sound Marilyn would remember forever, a kind of trembling relief. Not gratitude for a free trip, but the stunned recognition of being chosen. Next, she called her travel agent, the same patient woman who had helped plan the ill-fated family trip. This time, Marilyn gave a new list of names and firm instructions. 6 private rooms in one oceanfront villa, a long dining table big enough for shared meals, and a view of the Pacific that caught the sunset. The agent asked about hashtags or group themes. Marilyn laughed softly. No hashtags, no family-only captions, just space for women to breathe. As the bookings took shape, she felt something inside her realign. She wasn't running from the wound her family had opened. She was filling it with purpose. That evening, she pulled out the old walnut photo frame of James, the one she'd meant to place at the head of the family table in Hawaii. She set it on the kitchen counter, tracing the curve of his smile. We're still going, love, she whispered, just differently. Marilyn began assembling small touches for the trip. A lavender candle for each woman, jars of local honey from the farmer's market, blank postcards for writing to themselves. These were not souvenirs but invitations to remember their worth. She slept deeply that night, for the first time in years without dreaming of reconciliation. The next morning she woke before sunrise and took a slow walk through her quiet neighborhood. The world smelled of jasmine and wet earth. She thought about how often society told older women to shrink, to be grateful for leftovers, to sit in silence while life happened elsewhere. Not anymore. Back home, she finalized the last booking and closed the laptop. In the hush of her living room, she felt the shape of a new story, settling into place, not of a mother begging for belonging, but of a woman defining it on her own terms. The flight to Maui felt like an exhale she had waited a lifetime to take. As the plane descended through streaks of pink cloud, Marilyn watched the ocean catch fire in the sunset. 6 women sat beside and behind her, each wearing a quiet smile of disbelief. They were not tourists chasing postcards. They were pilgrims arriving at a long-delayed recognition of their own worth. The villa was perched on a gentle bluff, where palm trees swayed like slow dancers. Inside, broad windows opened to a horizon of endless water. Each bedroom had its own veranda. The kitchen smelled faintly of sea salt and wood polish. When the travel agent showed them the long dining table big enough for 7, with a space left for a photograph, Marilyn felt the room itself sigh with welcome. That first night they gathered on the terrace under a ceiling of stars. Carol wore a bright coral scarf and poured wine with the ease of someone finally free to celebrate. Beverly leaned back and whispered that she had never before eaten a meal where she wasn't expected to clean afterward. Frances, tears in her eyes, said the view from her room felt like a door to forgiveness. Each evening followed its own rhythm. They cooked together, filling the kitchen with the scent of garlic and island herbs. They shared memories of first loves, secret talents, and regrets long buried. When laughter erupted, it wasn't polite or restrained. It was deep and resonant, like ocean waves meeting rocks and breaking into music. Every night, Marilyn set James's framed photo at the center of the table. She lit one lavender candle and invited each woman to share a sentence they wished someone had told them at 30. You don't have to earn love. Your story matters. Rest is not weakness. The words floated upward into the starlit dark, a soft litany of self-permission. During the days, they explored together. They walked barefoot along hidden coves, visited farmers' markets fragrant with papayas and guava, and learned the slow grace of hula from a local elder who told them, "Every movement is a memory." At a small family-run cafe, they lingered over coconut pancakes, swapping stories that turned strangers into sisters. Marilyn often drifted a little apart, standing where the ocean met the sand. She thought of Nathan and Tanya not with bitterness, but with the distant clarity of someone watching another life through glass. They were no longer the center of her story. What she had built here, with these women who had known their own quiet erasures, felt truer than any photo-perfect family gathering. On the last night, the group walked the moonlit shore in silence, each carrying a shell or ribbon or tiny written name. They formed a circle, toes in the warm surf, and let the waves erase footprints that had brought them there. No speeches, no ceremony, just a collective understanding. They were free. Marilyn looked around the circle, Carol's scarf glowing like flame, Beverly humming a childhood hymn, Frances smiling through tears, and realized this was the family she had been saving for all along. Chosen, not obligated, present, not performative. The Pacific wind curled around them like a benediction. When they returned to the villa, she placed the last candle beside James's photograph. Its lavender flame burned steady and clear, as if he, too, was giving his blessing. Marilyn whispered a final truth into the quiet. Love that requires erasure isn't love at all. This island. 3 days after returning from Hawaii, Marilyn sat at her desk, the villa's salt-scented memories still clinging to her clothes. The Pacific's calm seemed to linger in her breath. She was unpacking when her inbox chimed. Subject, just want to clear the air. It was from Nathan. She read slowly. He described how a lot went wrong with their trip, how maybe things could have been communicated better, and how Tanya didn't mean to exclude you, she just wanted the trip to feel a certain way. Then came the real reason for the message. We're in a bit of a bind financially. We had to rebook a bunch of stuff on credit and it's kind of snowballing now. If you're able, could you maybe consider returning the original deposit we gave for the trip, or even part of it? We're still family. Just let me know. Marilyn let the words settle, like pebbles sinking to the bottom of a clear pond. The phrase, original deposit, echoed. She remembered every late-night tutoring session, every dollar she'd folded into the dream jar, every payment stamped with only her name. There had been no deposit from Nathan, no shared account. Only assumption. She closed her eyes and let Hawaii return. The women's laughter on the moonlit patio, James's smiling photo framed in walnut at the center of their table, the lavender candles that marked each evening with quiet blessing. Those memories filled her like sunlight. She thought of responding, of explaining why she would not refund betrayal disguised as oversight, but the thought passed quickly. True freedom required no footnotes. Understanding didn't mean surrender. Marilyn closed the email without replying. Later, she poured a glass of iced tea and stepped onto the back porch. A coastal bird skimmed low across the yard, brushing the wind chime James had bought on their 35th anniversary. Its clear note rang through the soft California dusk. She smiled, not the careful smile she once wore at family dinners when there was no more room at the big table, but a deeper one that came from release. She had given her best for years to people who treated her love as a transaction. Now, she gave her heart to those who cherished it. That evening she walked to the ocean's edge near her home, the Pacific wind wrapping around her ankles like a final benediction. She whispered to the horizon, "I was never left behind. I simply found those walking my way." Above her, the sky blushed with the same pink she'd seen in Maui at dawn. Behind her, the house glowed softly, filled not with silence, but with choice. The story she once longed to write with her son had ended. A better one of self-respect, chosen family, and unshakable clarity had already begun.